Hello there, this is TPA017. I'm just re-recording this one due to a couple of issues that happened with the last version. So if you've already seen the last version, you don't have to worry. But if you haven't, then this is a bit of a look at some games that came out last month, April 2024. And yes, a few interesting titles this last month, including Nordic Ashes, Rusty's Retirement, Minishoot Adventures, and Honkai Impact 3rd. So, with that being said, let's get into it, shall we? So, first up, we have Nordic Ashes, Survivors of Ragnarok by Knoxville Studios. It left early access after 1.5 years, and it's a Norse-inspired survivor-like game. 9 maps, 10 characters, 5 game modes, and over 150 achievements, as well as a range of skill trees, ascensions, and the like. There's also Twitch integration, so you can fight against elite enemies named from your chatters. So let's have a look at the trailer. Yes, so bit of an interesting one, that one. I believe I saw Serto there, the legendary flame giant, as a boss. So it's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it retails for $8.99 US. System requirements are Windows 7 or CentOS 7 or Ubuntu 18. CPU AMD FX 6300 or Intel i3 3rd or 4th generation. That's fairly old at this point, so it'll be about 9 or 10 years old. So yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about that. RAM 4 gigabytes. GPU Nvidia GeForce GTX 660 Ti or an AMD Radeon HD 7870. For space, either 530 or 565 megabytes. There was a bit of a discrepancy between Windows and Linux, but it's not too bad. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra, a Core 2 Duo processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM, an Intel HD 4000 or a NEATI graphics card, and 622 megabytes of free space. So I'll play it a bit safe and say if your computer's newer than 8 years old, you should be able to play without any major issues. So next up, Rusty's Retirement by Mr. Morris Games. This one's a bit of a different little one. It sits at the bottom of your screen. It's a bit of an idle farming game, where you get to see Rusty and these other robots water and harvest crops, soil them for biofuel, expand your farm, and hire more helpers. So let's have a look.
This is Rusty. They sit at the bottom of your screen. They've had a busy life and are now resting their bolts on the open range. Help Rusty tend to their farm, grow crops, produce biofuel, and automate with robots to build a green utopia. Rusty's realized how sometimes you might want to dedicate your time to other things, which is why Rusty's farm sits cozily at the bottom of your screen. Heck, we're even tending to the farm as we're writing this script. Well, look at that. We have some helper bots already automating a lot of the hard work for us, and we've built some houses for other robot friends to join us. Rusty doesn't mind if you're reading comics, doing tasks, or watching 5-hour-long video essays on incredibly niche topics. We hope that you find some comforts in making Rusty's farm the best it can be. Rusty's Retirement releases April 26th.
I might have to look up that doco on Turnips, actually. Could be interesting. Anyway, so that's Rusty's Retirement. So it's available on Windows and Mac. Sells for $6.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10, an Intel Core i3 3.2 GHz processor, which isn't too bad. 4 GB of RAM, a graphics card that supports DirectX 9. I think most of the, you can't even say most of the modern ones, it's been going back a fair while now. I'd say about 10 years or so, just to be very safe. And 256 megabytes of free space. On the Mac side, quite similar actually. Mac OS 10.9 Mavericks, Intel Core i3 2.6 GHz processor, 4 GB of RAM, a graphics card that supports DirectX 9. A bit dubious about that one. I'd assume some kind of metal or OpenGL. And 256 megabytes of free space. It's one of those, it's basically, if you're watching this on a laptop, you should be able to run it without any major problems. Yeah, so, next one, Minishoot Adventures by Soul Game Studio. This is a very pretty little one. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter, exploring castles and caves and the like, and forcing against the Unchosen's minions, or upgrading your ship, rescuing your friends, unlocking new abilities, and the like. So, it's been doing quite well for itself. So, let's have a look. Yes, very pretty one, that one. So, okay, so it's available for Windows and Mac. Retail price $14.99 US. System requirements: 64-bit Windows, quad-core 2.6 GHz processor, 8 GB of RAM, 2 GB of VRAM, and 2 GB of free space. So it's really not too bad. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.13. That would be. Oh, I should have put in there. Yeah, it's one of them. It's the one before Catalina. But anyway, CPU: Intel or Apple Silicon, 2 GB of RAM. GPU is not mentioned, but I'd assume any kind of recent integrated graphics card or any dedicated graphics card, and 1 GB of free space. So, I'd say a 6-year-old system, might even be a bit older, should be able to run it without any major issues. So, next up, Honkai Impact 3rd by MiHoYo. It came out in 2016, but it's been updated quite a bit since then. Control a party of 3 Valkyries in real-time combat against different enemies, either in story mode or co-op/competitive multiplayer, as well as a variety of minigames. So.
あなたたちの力もその技術もそしてその恐怖まで全ては私のもの。この道何かが違う。戦 戦いで自分の無実を証明することを許してあげる。始めましょう。満足させてちょうだい。悪い子たちはどこかしら。逃げられないわよ。しっかり働きなさい。歯を食いしばりなさい。ひざまずきなさい。下がりなさい。最後まで共に踊りましょう。
Yeah, so that had a smack release as part of the 7.4 update. So let's have a look. Now, so it's available on Windows and Mac, iOS and Android. It's a free-to-play game, but it has gacha elements to it. So, okay, so system requirements. Now, I don't think the Steam system requirements have been updated since it originally came out on it, so I would lean a bit more towards the Mac side of things in terms of RAM, space, etc. But anyway, right, so OS, Windows 7, Service Pack 1, x64, Intel Core i3-6100 or AMD FX 6300. They would be about 7 years old at this point. 8GB of RAM. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660 or AMD Radeon HD 7870, and 15GB of free space. But again, I believe that's a bit higher based on my experience. On the Mac side, macOS 11 Big Sur, Apple Silicon CPU, any series of the M1, 8GB of RAM. Any series of any of the M series CPUs, I should say. I've been practicing this, as you can tell. Now, the space, it was a 3GB download initially, but I had a 24GB additional download afterwards, so I would say 24, 27GB. Let's see. Okay, Cyber Knights Flashpoint by the Trees Brothers. Released into early access in October 2023. Laser Sentry by the Trees Brothers. They've been making RPGs for a very long time. I think it's about 10, 12 years. It might even be longer. Received the Mac version in April. It's a very pretty tactical party RPG set in a cyberpunk setting, multi-stage missions, classes, factions, stealth, action, all that kind of thing. So let's have a look. Yes, a quite good looking one, that one. I always enjoy these cyberpunk themes. So, it's available on Windows, Mac and Linux, $29.99 US. Minimum system requirements are Windows 10 or 11, or Ubuntu 14 or later. 1.2 GHz CPU, and 2 GB of RAM. GPU, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660, 2 GB, or AMD Radeon HD 7870, 2 GB, and 12 GB of free space. I would say the major problem would probably be the space. The other requirements really aren't too bad at all. On the Mac side, macOS 12 Ventura, Apple Silicon CPU, 2 GB of RAM, Apple M1 or later for the GPU, and 12 GB of free space. So it's basically any M1 Mac, not Intel. So. Now, our last one, I think, yes. Okay, this is a interesting one. Laughing to Die by... Okay, it's been translated as two different ways, the developer, but the Jelly production team, or the Good Luck Studio. So, now, they've been referred to as both, so I've just included both there, just to cover them my rear. So, it's 2D side-scroller visual novel. It's Chinese horror games received a lot of praise over there. Now, it's about traditional Chinese funeral culture. A young girl experiencing her grandmother's funeral, I should say. But it also goes into darker issues like human trafficking. I've read an article about it. It was it's that Chinese horror is different from European, American, Japanese, Korean horror. Chinese horror is more what you could reasonably expect to come across. I think would be the best way of saying it. It's kind of hard to describe. Alright, let's have a look at the trailer. Yes, it's like I said, I read some articles about it. Like I said, it's done very, very well over in China. I think it had about 3,000 active players when I was looking it up. So it's available for Windows and Mac. $4.99 US at retail price. Minimum system requirements are pretty low, to be honest. Windows 7, Intel Core i5 processor, 2GB of RAM, Intel HD Graphics 4000, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 10.14 Catalina. I would assume the same for the CPU and GPU and the space, and 2GB of RAM. So it's basically, if you're able to watch this video, you're able to run it. I'm always impressed when games try to confront those kind of topics. Plus, it's entirely hand-painted. It's quite nice to see in this day and age. Anyway, that'll do it for this month. For last month, I should say. May looks to be a very, very big one, actually. That I might have to actually put up the games I put on the front, the notable ones, up to 8, maybe a 9. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next month.